Eric, are you going to start or is Deborah going to start?
I will start, Commissioner
Okay,
Thomas.
thank you.
Just waiting on hearing room to come on before we go live.
Thank you, Troy.
Commissioners, this is your host. We are live and recording.
Thank you, Ms. Dunning. Good afternoon and welcome to the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners Land Use Hearing and Public Hearing. This is Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. It is 3:32 in the afternoon. Would you all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome everybody to today's hearing. Mr. Ingalls, does everything have proper certification that's on today's agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'll run through the notices quickly. Item 2 has 2 items, A and B. No specialized notice was required for those items, but it was properly noticed under the open meetings laws. Item 3 required posted, published, and mailed notice. That was accomplished March 7th, March 4th, and March 8th, respectively. Item 3B required posted and published notice. That was accomplished on March 8th and March 4th, respectively. Items 3C and D required published notice, which was accomplished on February 18th, 2021. Finally, item 3E required published notice. That was accomplished on April 8th, 2021. With that, you have proper notice and jurisdiction on all items on your agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Ingalls. Do any commissioners have any items for disclosure on, any disclosure items for anything on today's agenda?
I have none, Madam Chair. Thank you.
No, ma'am.
And I have none either. Moving on to item number 2, land use. We have A, the subdivision improvements agreement and intergovernmental agreement for Sterling Ranch filing 5B and the Sterling Ranch filing 5B final plat. Eric Pavlinik for staff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Eric Plavnik, representing Planning Services. The project before you is the Sterling Ranch filing 5B final plat. Project number SB 2020-058. Eric Barney with Sterling Ranch and Brian Hart with Redland Engineering are the project representatives on behalf of the owner, Sterling Ranch LLC. As part of this presentation, I'll also provide information on the Subdivision Improvements Agreement, Intergovernmental Agreement, SIA-IGA, for filing 5B. The applicant proposes 119 residential lots, 12 tracts, and associated public roads on 42.53 acres. All of the 119 residential lots are proposed as single-family detached residential lots. The intent of the final plat process is to provide for the review of the final engineering plans, the subdivision improvement agreement, public dedications, and other legal agreements. All engineering reports, studies, and plan for filing 5B have been reviewed and approved by Public Works Engineering. The final plat process begins with the submittal of an application, following a review period by referral agencies and the public, and acceptance of all engineering plans. The request is considered by a board at a public meeting. The site is located in the Stern Ranch PD, southwest of the intersection of Big Thompson Street and Middle Fork Street. This is an aerial of the property. The site is located south and west of Stern Ranch Filing 5A, which was recently platted, and directly north of the Larry D. Moore Water Treatment Plant. The site was rezoned to plan development with approval of the Stern Ranch PD by the board in 2013. Associated with the appeal of the Stern Ranch PD, the board also approved the Stern Ranch Water Supply Standards Appeal for certain provisions of Section 18A of the zoning resolution. The appeal established alternative minimum water demand standards and alternate water supply documentation standard for the Stern Ranch PD. In February of 2020, the board reviewed and approved the preliminary plan 5, which this site is a part of. The final plat for filing 5A was reviewed and approved by the board in May of 2020. This slide is an overview of the final plat exhibit. The applicant proposes 119 single-family detached residential lots and 12 tracts. Roads are public and dedicated to the county, and all tracts are dedicated to the Stern Ranch CAB for ownership and maintenance. The water supply for the final plat was reviewed at the time of preliminary plan approval for PP5. 10 more lots were added to the final plat than what was approved with the preliminary plan. The county's water consultant verified that the updated water demand for the final plat could be accommodated with the supplies previously reviewed for the preliminary plan. This is a view looking southwest into the site from the northeast corner of the project area, and a view looking and a view looking west from the same location. These are the approval standards applicable to a final plat. A detailed assessment of the project's compliance with all standards is included in the staff report. Staff has evaluated the final plat request in accordance with Article 5 of the subdivision resolution. Required improvements are identified and secured through the SIA IGA for filing 5B. Action on proposed condition number 1 is required prior to action on the final plat. Condition number 1, prior to board's action on the final plat, the subdivision improvements agreement, intergovernmental agreement, SIA IGA for filing 5B shall be approved by the board. Condition number 2, prior to recordation of the final plat, the applicant shall provide payment in the amount of $1,500 per single-family dwelling unit to the Douglas County School District for capital mitigation. Condition number 3, prior to recordation of the final plat, the applicant shall provide payment to Douglas County for the pro rata share cost towards improvements to the state highway system in accordance with the commitments set forth in the Stern Ranch PD. Condition number 4, prior to recordation of the final plat, the private telecommunication easement shall be recorded and reception numbers noted on the final plat exhibit. Condition number 5, prior to recordation of the final plat, technical corrections to the plat exhibit shall be made to the satisfaction of Douglas County. And condition number 6, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representatives during the public meeting and are agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all commitments and promises. Section 504.06 of the subdivision resolution sets forth the parameters of the board's determination on a final plat request as noted on the slide. The SIA IGA for Stern Ranch 5B is a 4-party agreement as referenced on this slide. The purpose of the SIA IGA is to provide for the completion of the streets, traffic facilities, sidewalks, storm drainage infrastructure, water infrastructure, and sanitary infrastructure as noted on this slide. This concludes the presentation for Stern Ranch filing 5B and the SIA IGA. 2 motions are necessary from the board. The first motion would be made for the SIA IGA, followed by a second motion on the final plat. Staff is available to take any questions at this time. Otherwise, Eric Barney with Stern Ranch is here with a presentation.
Questions for staff?
That was a great presentation. Thank you, Madam Chair. That was a good presentation, Eric. Thank you for that. Just in terms of the referral comments, I know the Douglas County School District had a brief letter concerning the school site proposed within the preliminary plan, and it looks as though there's some ongoing conversation with regard to that proposed condition too. Is there any additional or supplemental information that we should know about today, subsequent to the packet?
No, this is Eric Pavick for staff. No additional correspondence was received from the school district
Okay.
at this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. So Eric, just want to track on a couple things. So did I see that we had 10 lots? The platting was increased for 10 lots from the planned development, but that came based on the water planning, and it was determined that those 10 lots would be allowed? Is that what I saw?
Jeanette Baer for staff. So the county does its main water supply review and adequacy at preliminary plan. So at preliminary plan, the water supply was evaluated, and this final plat actually was 10 more lots than were evaluated in that preliminary plan. But the state engineer and the county's water consultant looked at that and said there was sufficient water to cover those 10 lots.
Okay, so that's, was that a deviation from the PD, the planned development?
No,
Okay, so it's still, this plating is still in accordance with kind of that governing document of the planned
Yes.
development?
yes.
All right. And then did I see, I apologize, I was trying to keep track. Did I see 6 conditions associated with this?
Yeah, that's correct. 6 conditions.
Okay. Very good. Madam Chair, I believe that's my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions. And would the applicant like to start their presentation, please?
Thank you, Commissioners. Eric Barney with Sterling Ranch, 8155 Pine River Avenue, Suite 200, Littleton, Colorado, 80125. First of all, I'd like to thank staff for all their hard work on this project. I do have Brock Smethels, President of Sterling Ranch, in attendance today, along with Brian Hart with Redland Engineering to answer any questions you may have. And we'll see if my slides work this time. I got hard copies, if not for you. I just want to point out, we are in compliance with the 2035 Comprehensive Master Plan, both for designated urban area along with, providing the vision of a healthy community. Filing 5B and in all of Sterling Ranch development, we provide significant open space, which you'll see in the following slides. This again is a little more detail on the filing 5 area. You can see this is all single family. We'll get into the character zones in a couple more slides here, but you've got some smaller lots, but they are all single family detached units. And one other point I'd like to make on this will finish out our Ascent Village portion out there. Again, as you saw earlier, here's a copy of the plat, 119 single family units. And here is that neighborhood plan. You can see the C3 designation for most of 5B is minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet. And then the C5, kind of along middle fork right there, is minimum 520 square foot lots. This is just illustration showing all the regional trails that we have going around there and the open space. Again, same representation. This shows all of Ascent Village, as I was just mentioning. Actually, we do have filing 6, which is south of Waterton, to finish up right there, but we've got filing 4 here, filing 5, and filing 6 to the south and east of Waterton. I want to point out, this is for illustration purposes only. This is the median between Middle Fork, which will be landscapes and amenities out there. Again, these next 2 slides are just for illustration purposes only. We'll be working on what actually goes out there soon. again, another representation there. You can see it's going to be a very nice open space area in between there with amenities in there. Summary, again, this is located right in the heart of Sterling Ranch. We've got the water treatment plant to the south. We're surrounded by the Denver water easement on the west and the Aurora water that runs through Middle Fork on this property. As you can see in the dark blue line at the bottom, that is the future Waterton Road for a connection off of Middle Fork. And as Eric established, we hit all the criteria elements in 50302, Article 4, Section 404. Next sheet, same. And one more, we do, again, conform with the, that's right, Section 18A water and also the sanitary sewer flows. With that, I'd ask for any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. You know, I just wanted to ask a question, and probably it's more of a comment. It looks like about 16.7 acres of the site is proposed as open space.
That's right.
Well, I just wanted to acknowledge that and again recognize Sterling Ranch for always having aesthetically pleasing and community-minded development that I think really honors the perspective of the comprehensive master plan. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I apologize. We just had an important hearing, and I was making sure we didn't have some update that was going to be a problem, so I apologize.
No, you're good.
Comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I don't think I have any questions. I mean, staff kind of addressed my question, so to the applicant, no questions. It's fascinating to me the times I've seen Sterling Ranch come before us. I mean, I've actually, had a lot of experience in Castle Rock by seeing a developer come in with a master plan and run the platting through. So very impressed with the designs you guys keep coming up and that whole idea of keeping a character for the entire neighborhood. And I know you guys have a long way to go in terms of what's left to build out. So it's good for me to see that, you're being very conscientious with your developments as you go along. Please keep it up. Don't make me say something else in one of these future ones.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So Eric, I just have one question. Your lot sizes are 5,000 square feet or 520 square feet, which is pretty tiny. Are those the alley-loaded homes,
That's
but they are
correct.
still single-family detached?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, I have no other questions.
Thank you, Commissioners.
You're welcome. There's nobody else from your side, Eric, that's going to speak? Nope. Okay, great. I'm going to open it up for citizen comment. Are there any citizens in the room who would like to address the board? Seeing no one come forward, Ms. Dunning, is there anyone online who would like to address the board on this topic?
I have no hands raised.
Thank you. Eric, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you the question. There are 6 conditions. Do you accept and agree all 6 of those conditions?
Yes, we accept all 6 conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board for a discussion or a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd be in favor of both of these motions. What is your pleasure in terms of the order and how you'd like us to proceed?
The SIA-IGA first, please.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve subdivision improvements agreement and intergovernmental agreement for Sterling Ranch, filing number 5B, Douglas County project number DV 2020-354.
And I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve Sterling Ranch filing 5B final plat with conditions as presented, with 6 conditions as presented. Project file is SB 2020-058.
Second?
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations. The next item is a public hearing. This is a resolution rezoning a 4.2 acre parcel of land. Dan Avery for staff. Are you ready?
I am.
So are
Thank
we.
you, Commissioner. Dan Avery, representing Planning Services. The project before you is the Reynolds Industrial Park Lot 17 addition rezoning, project number ZR 2019-012. The owner is the Merrill Family LLP, and the applicant's representatives for the request are Jeff McConaughey of 730 LLC, the prospective buyer of the site, Gil McNeish, his attorney, and his consultant from Norris Design, John Norris. I want to take a moment to thank the applicant for their patience with this process. Since this application began, we've had assigned staff turnover, consultant turnover, and of course a pandemic. Through that, the applicant has resolved issues, negotiated an abatement agreement with the county, and worked with the seller and the state to ensure the adequacy of the groundwater underlying the site. Thank you for your patience and diligence through this process. The applicant requests a rezoning from agricultural 1 to general industrial for approximately 4.2 acres abutting Lot 17 in the Reynolds Industrial Park. Through a related administrative replat, the 4.2 acres is to be combined with Lot 17, resulting in a 6.45 acre general industrial lot. 730 LLC, which owns Lot 17, is under contract to obtain the 4.2 acres upon successful rezoning and replatting. Central water and sewer are not presently available to the site, so the applicant is also requesting inclusion in the county's interim water and sanitation overlay district. The zoning designation allows for the use of wells for low water demand uses until the property is served by central water. Under the overlay district provisions, high water demand uses would require inclusion into a water and sanitation district. The intent of the rezoning process is described in Section 2501 of the zoning resolution to provide a process to amend the official zone district map with regard to the area of any zone district. The rezoning process begins with submittal of an application, followed by referral and a public review period. Public notice is required for the Planning Commission and then Board of County Commissioners hearings. At its April 5th Planning Commission hearing, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the request. The applicant and his representatives made presentations to the Commission. No members of the public were in attendance. The Planning Commission asked clarifying questions regarding the abatement agreement, limiting impacts to Plum Creek, and the objections that were raised by the Cherokee Ridge HOA. The applicant discussed his business. His representatives discussed the intent of the Douglas County Comprehensive Master Plan to site industrial development in nodes rather than in continuous strips along Highway 85. The property is located approximately a third of a mile south of the Airport Road and Reynolds Drive intersection, south of the property at 7125 Reynolds Drive. Land to the north and east is presently zoned for general industrial use, while land to the west and south is zoned agricultural 1 and encompasses the floodplain for Plum Creek. A portion of the site contains 100-year floodplain associated with the creek. Section 18, Floodplain Overlay District of the Douglas County Zoning Resolution, addresses potential uses of that portion of the site. The overall site is presently in violation of the Douglas County Zoning Resolution due to its past use under a separate landowner as a private landfill. 730 LLC has entered into an abatement agreement with Douglas County to abate the zoning violation within 2 years of approval of this request and the related administrative replat. Upon reclamation, the additional land is proposed to be used for outdoor storage associated with IMI Incorporated, a metal fabricator that operates on Lot 17. The abatement agreement executed earlier this year acknowledges the historic zoning and grading violations on the site, and the applicant commits to phased remediation of the landfilled material from east to west with deadlines of 12 months, 18 months, and 24 months from commencement of cleanup, which will begin within 60 days of zoning and subdivision approvals. The area of the rezoning was zoned agricultural 1 with the inception of zoning in 1955. Reynolds Industrial Park was platted and zoned general industrial in 1981. Here's the applicant's exhibit that depicts the area of the rezoning. As noted, the western portion of the property encompasses some floodplain. The rezoning request also proposes inclusion of the property in the interim water and sanitation overlay. As you can see from this map, the existing lots in the Reynolds Industrial Park are already included in the overlay. The overlay permits, as I previously noted, low water use land uses like outdoor storage to occur on well and septic. Here's an aerial image of the site, which is not visible from the road. Portions of the landfilled area have previously been remediated, and the remaining cleanup will occur within 2 years, as I've indicated. These are the approval standards for rezoning, which are discussed in detail in the staff report. The rezoning process is described in section 2504 of the zoning resolution. It provides that the board shall evaluate the rezoning request, staff report, referral agency comments, applicant responses, the planning commission recommendation, and public comment and testimony, and shall approve with conditions, continue, table for further study, remand to the planning commission, or deny the request. Staff has evaluated the rezoning request in accordance with the Douglas County Comprehensive Master Plan policies in section 25 of the zoning resolution. The application proposes general industrial zoning adjacent to the identified industrial development node in the master plan. The Board of County Commissioners will need to evaluate the appropriateness of enlarging the area permitted for industrial use and subsequent inclusion into the overlay district in the manner proposed, given the site's historic use and the applicant's willingness to reclaim the site. Should the board find that the approval standards have been met, it may approve the zoning resolution, which provides for inclusion in the interim water and sanitation district as well. This concludes my presentation. Unless there are questions from me at this time, the applicant's representatives, John Norris and Gil McNeish, have a presentation for you.
Thank you, Dan. Questions for staff?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dan, for that presentation. In reviewing this packet, one of the concerns that I have is the correspondence from Cedar and Vanderwall, representing Cherokee Ridge Estates Metro District, objecting to the rezoning based upon the comprehensive master plan. So I suppose I'll reserve my questions following the applicant's presentation, but I will have questions for probably both staff and the applicant with regard to that conversation.
Commissioner Teal.
Actually, Madam Chair, my question, I'm not sure if it's appropriate for staff or the applicant, so I'd like to reserve my question until after the applicant's presentation and have an opportunity to pose my questions to either staff or the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Dan, you're always so well qualified and do such a good job, so I can understand why you got this difficult application. So this was a private landfill, but yet there are violations. So I'm taking that this was never an approved landfill. The previous owner or somebody started using it as a landfill. Is that correct?
That's correct. The previous, a previous tenant, I believe, was using it as a private landfill for construction debris.
So when you say construction debris, is that concrete? What all are we talking about?
I believe from the Planning Commission hearing, concrete, waste, electrical conduit, things of that nature.
There's no hazardous materials?
None that are known.
Okay. If you could just go back a few slides to the one with the overlay water district. I'm a little confused about that one. So this particular site is not in the district at this point. Is the parcel associated with it in the district?
Lot 17 is presently in the district. This would request to add the additional land into the district as well.
And in doing so, what I understand that means is that there is no central water or wastewater in this district at this point. But if there is someday that becomes available, all of this district would be considered in that. Is that what this is all about?
Yes, the general industrial zone district requires central water and sewer for many of the uses. This overlay district enables ongoing use of industrial land for low water use purposes. Many of the users in that corridor use their properties for RV storage, outdoor storage, relatively low water use manufacturing in some cases. And all of those are allowed under the overlay district.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that for me. So applicant is now able to make their presentation.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
You're loud and clear, sir.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Gil McNeish. The last name is spelled McNeish. I'm with the law firm of Spencer Fane in Denver, 1700 Lincoln Street, Suite 2000, 80203. Appreciate the opportunity to appear before the board today in utilizing your virtual hearing option. Hopefully we can navigate through that process effectively and address and answer any questions that you may have at the conclusion of our presentation. Try to respond to your concerns and certainly comment to the extent appropriate and address any public comments that may be offered today. What I'd like to do, and I will do, is keep my comments very brief and introductory in nature, and then make myself available to weigh in to the extent that I can to contribute to answering and responding to any questions that you may have following the completion of our presentation. What I'd like to do is introduce two individuals that are named as the applicant representatives to you today and have them briefly comment on the proposal. First will be Jeff McConlog. Jeff is the president and owner of IMI Inc., which is a steel products manufacturing company currently in operation on Lot 17 in the Reynolds Industrial Park. And his company will, in effect, be the beneficiary, if you will, of an approval to expand his site to accommodate the needs of his business operation. I've asked Jeff to introduce himself, allow you to become familiar with who he is and the nature of his company and the operation in kind of a summary form. And then we're going to turn the mic over to John Norris with Norris Design, who will highlight in his comments some of the items that were mentioned by Dan in his report. So with that brief introduction, what I'd like to do first is turn the mic over to Jeff and have him make his comments.
Thank you, Mr. McNeish. Jeff, if you could give us your name, spell your last name, and give us your address before you begin, please.
Hi, my name is Jeff McConlog. My last name is spelled McConlogue. My home address is 1312 South Lincoln, Denver, Colorado. The business is 7125 Reynolds Drive, Sedalia, Colorado.
Thank you.
Should I start?
Yes, please. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for hearing us on this. So a little bit about myself. I was raised in Colorado, raised over in the Columbine Chatfield area. After I got out of high school, I was deciding what I wanted to do with my life and was introduced into the trades. I started on my tools as a millwright, which we would design and build industrial machinery. We worked for a lot of companies in Denver and in Colorado, including U.S. Mint, Lockheed Martin, Coors Brewery, amongst others. I started working for IMI, which is my company that is at Lot 17 in Reynolds Drive in 2005. Worked my way up with the previous ownership and developed trust with them to a point where we worked through a agreement for me to acquire IMI and continue it on when they were ready to retire. What we currently do is we fabricate structural steel and miscellaneous metals, and we install it up and down the Front Range, mainly in Denver. We do staircases, railings, structural buildings all over town. So what this site would allow us to do is expand our storage space, which in turn would allow us to increase our bandwidth as far as bringing on additional projects and trying to pre-plan them, prefabricate the steel and store it, and then we would take it to the job sites to install it when the projects were ready for us. So that's a little bit about myself, and I guess with that being said, I'd like to turn it back to Gil or John, who is going to do the next part of our presentation.
Is that you, John?
Norris Design.
I can't hear.
Mr.
sorry?
McNeish, is Mr. Norris going to do the next part?
I'm trying to.
John, you are unmuted.
So, Mr. Norris, we're still not able to hear you.
I'm working on it. Can you hear me at all?
We can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm John Norris at Norris Design. Our address here is 1101 Bannock Street in Denver, Colorado, 80204. First of all, I want to thank the county staff for working hard with our team on a small but complicated project that has been a little bit of a hard one to get to the point on over these last couple of years. I wanted to just reiterate a couple of Dan's points that he made in his presentation. The first one is with 2502.1, compliance with the zoning code and the county's comp plan. We believe that the plan really meets those requirements because of a lot of different things, but we believe it helps to foster a robust economy per the county's plan. It also wants to promote business retention and expansion. And in doing so, this allows Jeff and his burgeoning steel business to stay in the county and be a key part of the county's plan in the long term. It also adds an important mitigation of the landfill that has been a big focus of the county for many years. And Jeff has stepped up and agreed to take that on and make that happen over time. The second piece is 2502.07, and is the rezoning compatible with the surrounding land uses? We believe, again, that the rezoning is compatible with the surrounding land uses for the following reasons. We do have compatible and similar land uses on two sides, and I would also point out that a large portion of the site will remain unused and in the floodplain, and will allow wildlife and typical wildlife movement to continue to happen as it does today, and maybe in a better way because of the cleanup. Lastly, we have no objections by any adjacent users in this case. Lastly, 2502.08 is the land suitable for the intended use. And we totally believe that this small expansion of zoning of lot 17 is suitable. First, it's a very modest extension of the land use within lot 17 and a logical kind of a use. Two, the usage of outdoor storage for steel is very much compatible with the other uses adjacent to the site. And lastly, the agreement to abate the landfill solves one of the county's longstanding problems for the site. Again, that concludes our presentation. Jeff, Gil, and I are here to help answer any questions that you might have about the project or the zoning request.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. Questions for the applicant or staff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you all for your presentation and for the background. That was very helpful. You know, I suppose I'm still struggling pretty significantly with the correspondence from council regarding the comprehensive master plan, and specifically the designation, very similar to Franktown, that the Leviers rural community is designated in the comprehensive master plan as one of historic significance. So again, I'm kind of going through the objectives in the CMP one by one, and in particular, it's the policy 4.2E.2, in cooperation with landowners, encourage the rezoning of long narrow strips of general industrial zone, GI zoned, to agricultural 1, or open space conservation. And it seems as though we're moving in the opposite direction here. So wondering if you, maybe council, can help me interpret what we're seeing here from this correspondence.
Commissioner, those are good questions. And we did not just summarily dismiss the comments by the neighborhood group. And by the way, just in terms of perspective, the Cherokee Ridge Estates, as you probably know, is across Santa Fe and approximately 1.5 miles to 2 miles north of this particular project area that we're dealing with today. The Leviers plan that's referenced primarily in their letter is unique because Leviers is unique, as you know. It's recognized as both an urban and rural mix because of its historic development. I think a careful reading of that plan and an understanding of what we're proposing here does not suggest necessarily a conflict just by definition. We believe that there are compatibilities with what we're suggesting and what they're trying to achieve with the emphasis they've placed on certain goals and policies in the Leviers plan. For example, as they point out in their letter, industrial development ought to be focused on the industrial nodes of the area, of which there are several, one of which is the Reynolds Industrial Park itself. We are adding, as John Norris indicated, a very modest amount of acreage to that industrial park area, but we're focusing the development not separate and apart and in another direction away from the node. We're incorporating it into the existing node. So we think that we're on track and consistent, if you will, with the concern expressed by the Cherokee Ridge folks. The comment you made about having the industrial land between the railroad and the public right-of-way ultimately be converted in cooperation with landowners from industrial to other uses, it reflects a different area under the plan. That's the strip further to the east from this property. It doesn't really affect this property. We have no control, and we're not violating, if you will, or in any way deviating from the expression set in the goal and policies in the plan with reference to that strip. This area doesn't deal with the strip of land in question there. And I guess lastly, I would comment on the remaining concerns expressed by the Ridge Estate folks. And that had to do primarily with what I'm going to call the integrity, if you will, of preserving the riparian nature of Plum Creek. We do not plan to encroach upon Plum Creek. We are not, in fact, I think ultimately what we intend to do as a result of the remediation work that Jeff is committed to, pursuant to that abatement plan, is enhance this area. it will contribute to the enhancement of the riparian nature of the creek, as John indicated. It's going to be essentially an open space lot, not a separate freestanding lot. We're merging it with Lot 17 and combining them to make one expanded Lot 17. And this is going to be the outdoor storage area for it. So I don't think fundamentally that we're in opposite necessarily with the concerns expressed by Cherokee Ridge. But on the other hand, and we did discuss, as Dan pointed out, I should maybe emphasize the Planning Commission discussed the same issues with us at the time and concluded that there wasn't any fundamental disagreement, if you will, between what we're proposing and what was contemplated based on the plans. And there was a recognition that there are some aspects of the plan documents themselves that to some degree may be somewhat contrary or in conflict, and a balance has to be struck. And when that was evaluated by the Planning Commission, they came down on the side of favoring the recommendation of approval for this proposal because they thought in balance that rather than violating the goals and objectives of the appropriate plans, we helped advance the cause. So that's it's an important point, and I think worthy of discussion. But I think we come down okay on that point because of the nature of what we're proposing.
Well, thank you, Mr. McNeish, for your candor and the thoroughness of your answer. For staff, do you have anything additional to elaborate on with regard to the reflecting on the comprehensive master plan?
Dan Avery for staff. I agree with Mr. McNeish's analysis. Staff's analysis tracks along those lines. Certainly, we recognize that this additional 4.2 acres is accessible almost exclusively from Lot 17. So that poses some significant challenges for remediation, for one thing, under its current situation, and also for future potential uses of the site were it to remain agricultural. And staff also notes that the master plan does support remediation of contaminated sites, and that this overall package does further those objectives.
Yeah, I do find that compelling that there's a mitigation or remediation aspect to the application. I also noticed that there was a comment with regard to water not being able to be used for industrial use. How will we ensure that that continues to be the case?
The existing well permit allows for effectively sanitary use of the water, which is my understanding is that that's how the water is currently used on the site. It's not used in manufacturing processes, to my knowledge. The applicant is aware of those well permit restrictions, and those restrictions are applicable to Lot 17 in its current form. Staff spent a lot of time with the Division of Water Resources and the applicant and the seller of the land, ensuring that the land underlying the area to be rezoned included groundwater that could be used for industrial purposes going forward. So there is an opportunity for the landowner in the future, if needed, to drill an additional well into the new portion of the site, the 4.2 acres, that could in fact be used for industrial purposes, albeit at a relatively low water use level.
Okay. And one last question, and it's an important one, at least from my perspective. So if the application is granted, do you believe that other parcels within the Reynolds Industrial Park could similarly seek to expand their parcel size at the expense of A1 zone land and then further encroach onto the banks of the Plum Creek?
I do not believe that this would set a precedent in that regard, no.
Okay.
The land to the west is substantially encumbered by floodplain, and the topography does not lend itself to a similar effort in other locations.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Questions?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess my question, I think is appropriate to address Mr. McConaughey. Well, congratulations. It sounds like you've had a very interesting career in your chosen trade. So you're making the commitment, though, with this zoning to acquire and then remediate this piece of land. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then it's your intention, it's your business that will make use of the land for storage of your fabrications.
Correct. It is my business.
Are you intending to do anything to, once you remediate the essential, unpermitted dump, what are you planning on doing to treat the land to prepare the surface for those storage options?
I believe in the remediation plan that was approved, there's a certain aspect of it that's close to the floodplain. It's a grading plan that includes reseeding in certain areas. I haven't fully engaged that aspect yet. I do have some quotes from excavating and civil companies, but without owning the land currently, I haven't hired them to start going down that path. But I'm pretty sure that the remediation plan has seeding in the appropriate areas to bring that back to its former state before the landfill came in.
Well, you're willing to make the commitment today that upon purchase of the land and upon this zoning, change of zoning being granted, you are committed to moving forward in accordance with the remediation plan.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you give us an idea what that storage use looks like? I mean, can you give us an idea, what are the fabrication products that you're going to be placing on that land?
Yeah, so we're currently under contract on a 22-story building downtown at 21st and Arapahoe. We have a 17-story building that we're doing at Bellevue Station. 2 stories down, or 2 separate buildings down off of Santa Fe. So within these projects, we will be fabricating exit stairs. So it's structural steel or steel stairs that we'll then bundle by floor, and we'll take them to the job site as needed, because a lot of those job sites have, pretty limited access or limited storage at the site. And it's different. That's a good representation of the type of work that we do. Some of it would also be steel beams and steel columns that we, same thought process. We would take those to the job site as the projects require them.
What's your turnaround time from fabrication of the material, then placing it in the storage site, to actually then transporting it to your client site?
Our current turnaround time is normally fairly quick. Our goal is to be ahead of it as far as possible. The more pre-planning we do, the more efficient we can be, and the better we are as a company. So I would say that with the current size of our lot, it's about 1 month before we take them to the job sites. With the expanded storage, we would hope to get ahead of projects 2 or 3 months.
Okay. I think those are my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. This is a 4.2 acre site. How much of that is in the floodplain? Do you know, Jeff?
I would say probably at least 1.5 acres of it are in the floodplain, somewhere in that range.
Do you agree with that, Dan?
Yes, and staff also notes that if this application is ultimately approved, there will be a subsequent site improvement plan process that would be primarily an engineering process to determine suitable ground surface material and how stormwater runoff from the site would be managed going forward.
So maybe I didn't do that great of a job in chemistry. Doesn't steel rust? Jeff?
Yeah, steel does rust, but it's not, it doesn't turn into like a liquid. It's just a surface rust, especially after just a month or so or 2 months. It doesn't affect the integrity of it. It's normally just a discoloration.
Okay, thank you. And I also had questions that Commissioner Layden asked that were presented in this letter from Setter and Vanderwall, and those questions have been answered to my satisfaction, just so that you know that. Any other questions?
I have nothing further, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'm going to open this up for citizen comment. Are there any citizens in the room who would like to discuss this item with the commissioners? Seeing no one come forward, Ms. Dunning, is there anyone online?
I have no hands raised.
Thank you, Ms. Dunning. I'll bring it back to the board then for discussion and then a motion.
Madam Chair, I'm interested in hearing from both of you in terms of your perspective, but I think we've gone through a battery of questions of both the applicant and staff. Certainly appreciate a Coloradan bringing forth a business application, and certainly government does not, at least our government, doesn't intend to stand in his way. I'm certainly satisfied by the hard work that staff has put into reviewing the comprehensive master plan, as well as the work of the Planning Commission to reflect upon that as well. I suppose I'm also persuaded by the mitigation and remediation aspect of the application. As well as the fact that staff does not believe this will set a precedent of encroachment. So I actually would be in favor of this application.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and speak in favor of the application at this time, just because it was the thing that really came to my mind was something you said, Abe, about your question to the applicant pertaining to, are we going in the wrong direction, going from agricultural zoning into a light industrial zoning. At the same token, as you said, the remediation piece is compelling. I mean, a dump is a dump. The idea of just leaving a dump because we're concerned about it being put to another use is almost a common sense issue for me. And then of course, the story of IMI Incorporated and is a compelling success story here within our community. And I got to tell you, I'm a sucker for a self-starter who, takes a business and grows a business regardless of where it is. Having tried to do the same thing in my own business life. So, no, I'm in favor of it. I like the idea of, taking a dump and making it into another use. Yeah, the moving from agricultural into a light industrial is initially bothersome, but I think my questions were answered enough based on the future owner's commitment to the treatment of the land and the expansion of his business that I think I'm in favor and would be a vote for approval.
And I'll just clarify, this is going from agricultural to general industrial, not light industrial. Is that correct?
Okay.
Is correct, Commissioner.
Are you still okay with that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out.
So this is a question for staff that in our packet on page 151 of the entire packet, so this is the last page with the attachments. It said, should the board find that the approval standards have been met, it may approve the rezoning and the inclusion into the interim water and sanitation overlay district. Does that mean that if we approve this item, we are doing both things?
That's correct, Commissioner. The resolution before you does both things.
Okay. And so I appreciate that answer. Thank you. In reading this, I certainly read the letter from the neighbors. And a consideration on my part is that this is a landfill that was done illegally, and Jeff is willing to clean up that mess, and that's a big responsibility. And so in exchange for him taking care of this dump that is so close to a watershed, a waterway, and the property is 25% in a floodplain, which means that there's going to be riparian area already that is protected, I am in support of this application as well. So I will accept a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution rezoning a 4.2-acre parcel of land in the south half of Section 3, Township 7, Range 68 east of the 6th Prime Meridian, located in Douglas County, Colorado, from Agricultural 1 to General Industrial Project File ZR 2019-012.
I will second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries. Congratulations, Jeff, and the rest of your staff. We'll be looking for good things to come from that portion of the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item B of the public hearing. This is Riata South and Matthew Jakubowski.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Matt Jakubowski, representing Planning Services. The item before you is the Riata South Preliminary Plan Number 1, 5th revision. The project number is SB 2020-043. Brian Connolly of the Otten Johnson Law Firm is here on behalf of Betts Lake LLC, the applicant. The applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary plan to subdivide a 79-acre site into 37 single-family residential lots and 10 tracts. Lots range from 7,600 to 13,000 square feet in size. The intent of the preliminary plan process is to provide an in-depth analysis of the proposed subdivision, including a review of the design considering the ability to obtain water and sanitation, identify geologic hazards, environmentally sensitive areas, wildlife habitat areas, source of required services, vehicular and pedestrian circulation, storm drainage, and water quality, relationship to surrounding land uses, and conformance with the master plan. The preliminary process begins with the submittal of an application. Following comments by staff, the request is forwarded to referral agencies. At the beginning of the referral period, courtesy notifications of an application and process are sent to abutting landowners. Public notice is also provided, and the request is heard by the Planning Commission prior to consideration by the Board of County Commissioners. During the process, staff received multiple comments in support of the application, including those attached to the staff report and those you received on Friday, April 9th in a packet that went out to you prior to the hearing. All those comments, again, are in support of the application. There were a few questions. One resident questioned whether the proposal would impact utilities. The applicant was able to put that neighbor in touch with Pinery Water and ease their concerns. The same resident also asked about a connection of the Kinney Creek Trail, which was actually part of a recent subdivision application, the Minor Development Fourth Amendment a few months ago, which is not related to this application, but the applicant is fulfilling its requirements in the PD through that trail connection by that other subdivision, but I just wanted to mention that that question was also satisfied by the applicant's information. The applicant, I should add, provided some extensive community outreach during the plan development process previously, which they can probably provide some additional information, but I thought that was worthwhile to mention here, being that we didn't have any comments from the HOAs that received referrals during the process, which I think was partially because the applicant had done a very thorough job of community outreach previously. The Planning Commission heard the proposal at a public hearing on March 22nd, 2021, and unanimously recommended approval by a vote of 7-0. No members of the public spoke at that hearing. The site, which is outlined in yellow, and my cursor doesn't seem to catch up, but it's generally in the northern half of the PD with some frontage along Hilltop Road. The PD itself is located in between the Pinery and Butterfield and Hilltop Road and roughly around where Legend High School is. To the east is a subdivision called Hidden Village. And on the far west of the PD is State Highway 83. This aerial shows single-family development by a zoomed-in view within Butterfield to the west and the PD itself within platted single-family lots to the east. The existing golf club clubhouse and golf course are to the south of Preservation Trail. As background, the Riata plan development was approved in 2000 for a maximum 169 units. These were platted as part of filing number 1 in 2005. In 2019, the 7th and 8th amendments, which were separate applications because of ownership, were approved to permit a total of 255 units, so some additional units and why we're here today with this proposed subdivision. In early 2021, a 9-lot minor development just to the west of the site that I alluded to previously was approved. Around 236 or so lots are anticipated at full build-out of the planned development, which is assuming that all the lots in the 8th amendment, which is a whole other separate area of the PD, end up being platted at some point in the future. As shown on the exhibit, lots 1 through 34 are clustered as part of what the applicant is calling a village concept. These are accessible by private roadways from Preservation Trail. South Metro Fire and Engineering Services worked and communicated with the applicant to basically verify that this design was acceptable. There are some driveways at the ends of these private roads that will access certain lots in the subdivision. There are 3 conventional lots that are larger, about an acre in size, that will receive access from Forest Keep Circle. Open space surrounds the lots in the village, as well as the remainder of the subdivision north of this area, not shown on the exhibit, all the way up to Hilltop Road. These open space areas are to be preserved through permanent open space easement, which is mentioned in condition number 2. And related to the proposed Stroh Road extension, which is bordering the west side of the site, the applicant will provide any required slope easements at final plat, which is mentioned in condition number 1. Also, as part of the subdivision improvements agreement at final plat, looking forward and wanting to stage some of the conditions here, the full width grading of Stroh Road along the subdivision boundary shall be completed at the 19th building permit, which is consistent with condition number 3. And also, the SIA will secure completion of the trail, which is a connection between Preservation Trail and Stroh Road and Hilltop Road and Stroh Road. The applicant, during the PD process, provided some cross sections and continued that analysis through the preliminary plan, which provided some ability of the applicant to identify potential landscape areas, which are attached as exhibits in the staff report. Those landscape areas will be determined in full by the SIA during final plat. But wanted to mention that because the applicant put a lot of effort into the design of this subdivision. Following our site photos, this shot is from Preservation Trail looking north through the center of the village. This photo, also taken from Preservation Trail, looks in a northwesterly direction through the village lots. This shot looks southwesterly through the village, approximately from the location of the new Stroh Road. Finally, this view looks north from the village up the proposed Stroh Road extension. The area of track C is to the right-hand side of the slide. The approval standards for a preliminary plan request are set forth in section 403 of the subdivision resolution and are listed on this slide. Staff's assessment of the approval standards are discussed in detail within pages 10 through 13 of the staff report. Staff has evaluated the preliminary plan in accordance with Article 4 of the Douglas County Subdivision Resolution. Should the board find that the approval standards for the preliminary plan are met, the following proposed conditions should be considered for inclusion in the motion. Condition number 1, prior to recordation of the final plat, the applicant shall provide all required slope easements adjacent to Stroh Road to Douglas County. Condition number 2, prior to recordation of the final plat, the applicant shall grant a permanent open space easement to Douglas County for preservation of Tract B and Tract C. Condition number 3, as part of the subdivision improvements agreement for the final plat, the applicant, its successors, or assigned shall complete full width grading for that portion of the Stroh Road extension within planning area 13 prior to the issuance of the 19th building permit for the proposed subdivision, which is of course about halfway through the construction of the subdivision. Condition number 4, prior to issuance of the first building permit for the proposed subdivision, the developer or Reata South Metropolitan District shall pay its pro rata share of the cost of a future traffic signal at the intersection of East Hilltop Road and Village Road. Condition number 5, as part of the subdivision improvements agreement for the final plat, the applicant, its successors, or assigned shall provide for the construction of the Stroh Road Regional Trail from the intersection of Stroh Road and Preservation Trail in a manner consistent with the Reata South Plan Development Commitment. Condition number 6, during construction activity within the development, the applicant, its successors, and assigned shall take all reasonable care to watch for historic resources, paleontological resources, and other cultural history resources, and shall immediately notify Douglas County and complete appropriate Office of Archaeology and Historic Preservation data management forms in the event of such discovery. Condition number 7, during subdivision grading activity within the development, the applicant, its successors, and assigned shall conduct a burrowing owl study if any earth moving will take place between March 15th and October 31st. Condition number 8, technical corrections to the record copy of the preliminary plan exhibit shall be made to the satisfaction of Douglas County. And condition number 9, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public hearing and/or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. Section 405.08 of the subdivision resolution sets forth the parameters for the board action on preliminary plan requests, as noted on this slide before you. This concludes staff's presentation. I am available for questions regarding the staff report. Otherwise, Brian Connolly is here on behalf of Betts Lake LLC and has representatives of his team available for any questions that the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. You read fast. Thank you. Questions for
It's been a
staff?
long day so far, I think. So.
It has. Questions for staff?
Thank you, and thanks for that great presentation, Matt. As always, I'll reserve my questions for following Mr. Connolly's comments.
I have one question for you, Matt. Did you say when the SIA-IGA will be signed?
The SIA-IGA would be a final plat
That final plat? Okay, thank you.
product, correct?
Mr. Connolly?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brian Connolly, last name is spelled C-O-N-N-O-L-L-Y. Business address is 950 17th Street, Suite 1600 in Denver, and I'm with the law firm of Otten Johnson. As Matt pulls up the presentation, I would like to just offer a huge thank you to Matt and your staff. Matt has been with us through both the PD and through the preliminary plan, so he's become intimately familiar with this project. And we appreciate all of his efforts.
Thank you.
Since it's been a long day for you thus far, I will try to move quickly through the presentation.
We appreciate that. We got more after you.
You can go next slide, Matt. You go to next slide. So as Matt said, we're looking for approval for 37 single-family detached home lots. I'll explain those in a minute. Next slide. The Planning Commission had some confusion about the various parties who are affiliated with this application, and so this slide is just sort of introducing the parties. Again, the property is owned by the Reata South Metropolitan District, which is the metro district for the community. The developer is Betts Lake LLC, which is a subsidiary of Arendale Holdings. There's an HOA in the community. There's also the Colorado Golf Club, which owns the the golf course and the clubhouse, and then there's the community members as well. Next slide. Just our development team, we have members of the team here. Amy Myers is here from Arendale Holdings. The developer, David Brem with Plan West, has been responsible for the land planning and design work. Rick Moore is here with Manhard Engineering, he's a civil engineer. And not represented today are LSC Transportation and ERO, who have helped us with traffic and environmental analysis, respectively. Next slide. And as you've heard before, the reason for this project is to ensure the fiscal stability of the Riata South Metro District, as well as continuing the high quality of development in Colorado Golf Club, which I'll speak to momentarily. Next slide. And as Matt reminded you, we were all here before you, not you, Commissioner Teal, but in 2019, we obtained approval for the PD, and then we were back here in January. And thank you for your approval of the lots along Preservation Trail. Next slide. This just shows the orientation between the application you heard in January and this one. The lots in blue are the ones along Preservation Trail that you approved in January, and the ones in red are the ones that we're seeking approval from you today. Next slide. As Matt said, this project has involved a very robust community outreach effort that dates back almost now 10 years with both the community in Colorado Golf Club as well as the adjacent Butterfield community and Pinery and Hidden Village. I think we've counted up over 100 meetings with community members, whether those be, big community meetings with a lot of people there or just one-on-one discussions. And we think that this project is a better project as a result of all that community engagement. Next slide. And this slide just contains a listing of the various groups that we've engaged with as we've gone through the process. And quite frankly, there are probably more than are listed here. Next slide. So I will spend a couple of minutes on this slide because I think just to put a finer point on some of the land planning efforts that have gone into what looks like a fairly small site. This is a unique opportunity. This is a vacant property that's across the street from the Colorado Golf Club clubhouse. As you've heard about in our previous applications, golf course communities have sort of had a rough go of it since the 2008 recession. They've come back a little bit since the start of the COVID pandemic, but this presented a really unique opportunity for Colorado Golf Club to create something really special in close walkable proximity or cartable if you drive a golf cart across to the clubhouse. The clubhouse really is the center of the community. It's the social center of the community, and it is kind of the focal point. So the ability to do a community like this of homes across from the clubhouse is unique. First of all, I guess in discussing the land plan, as you know, in 2019, you all approved up to 56 homes, either attached or detached in this property. Recent market analysis has proven out that actually having a single-family detached home product here is what's best, not only from a marketing standpoint, but also from a community standpoint. It fits in with the character of Colorado Golf Club better than I think having attached product. There was a lot of analysis done, and so the 56 units that you approved in the PD are now down to the 37 that you see here that are single-family detached homes. As far as the land planning itself, so this property, if you can sort of envision it, and I know some of you have probably been out there, sits in a little bit of a bowl. So it's kind of tucked away in a little bit of a valley. And so through very meticulous site planning, I think David Brem is here. I think he's having trouble walking because he's walked the site so many times. We get through meticulous planning of walking the site. These different enclaves, they're basically 3 enclaves of private roads and homes have been placed in a way that really takes advantage of where there are little ridge lines and where some of the topography is. The goal is not to overlap grade this, but to rather, just sort of tuck the homes into the existing grade and into the existing landscape, preserve as many of the stands of ponderosa trees as are out there. The roads themselves are located kind of on the little ridge lines, and then the homes have been located. I know it's hard to tell when you're just looking at lot lines on a map, but the homes have been located in a way that not only takes advantage of mountain views to the extent they exist, but also views of kind of those little open spaces that are going to be in between the different enclaves. So it really has been a very meticulously planned project. You see that there's trail connectivity between the 3 enclaves that we have of what we're calling the village homes, as well as trail connectivity across the street to the golf clubhouse. What you see on the far right of the map are the 3 custom home lots that will be on Forest Keep. One of those is an existing lot, and then there are 2 more custom home lots. Those are more in keeping with what you see in the remainder of Colorado Golf Club, about 2-acre lots. We have worked with the neighbors across the street there in order to preserve views. The height of those homes will be limited to allow for preservation of those mountain views. Then obviously Stroh Road, we talked a lot about that at the PD hearing, and you've heard from Matt that we've committed to do grading along Stroh Road. We've done some work, David's firm has done a lot of work to sort of understand views across to Butterfield, how that fits with putting Stroh Road through the property. And so what we've done is worked with staff to identify locations for landscape buffering and to make sure that Stroh Road, even though it will impact these communities, make sure that it has as limited impact as possible, both to the new homes here as well as to Butterfield. And then, as Matt said, what you see adjacent to Stroh Road on the north side of it is the future Stroh Road Trail, which would then provide that connectivity from Hilltop Road, Legend High School, all the way down through the Colorado Golf Club property and allow the connectivity to Kinney Creek Trail, and then even as far out as going to the Cherry Creek Trail. So providing a lot of trail connectivity through the community. And then right in the middle of the site and adjacent to Stroh Road, you do see some locations for detention facilities for stormwater, and that area already serves as a little bit of a sort of natural stormwater detention, and those will remain that way following construction. Next slide. I think Matt did an excellent job of running through the approval criteria in his staff report, so I'm not going to belabor the point. I'm happy to answer any questions on that. Next slide. So with that, we would respectfully request your approval. I realize I went quickly through the presentation, so happy to answer any questions. And to preempt the question, we agree with all of the conditions of approval.
And there are 9 of them.
When we agree with all 9 of them.
Thank you, Brian. Questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Connolly. You're always so incredibly prepared and a great advocate for your clients. And I think the collaboration with our staff is pretty evident. Thank you for walking us through this journey. I know it's been a long one. And frankly, you have answered all my questions. I guess I'm somewhat surprised that we didn't get any referral comments from any of the abutting HOAs. Does that remain the case?
Yes, Matt Jacobowski for staff. There were no comments from abutting HOAs. During the PD process, the Butterfield community was the most vocal, but we did not receive comments from them.
No, very surprised. Great.
Commissioner Layton, just to actually follow up on that, I meant to mention that in my presentation that you'll recall in January when we had the discussion about the 9 lots, there were a couple of Butterfield residents who came here who were confused about the status of things. Following that hearing, I had a couple of phone conversations with the HOA president in Butterfield. She told me that she was going to communicate to the community about what was going on. I think there was just some confusion about the relationship of zoning and subdivision that non-land use lawyers don't understand. So I think it sounds like she went out and had some communication with the residents there, and we haven't heard anything from anybody.
Well, way to go. I think I recall from my first year of law school, as you probably do as well, that it's good to be helpful to the finder of fact and candid. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. And thank you for your kind comments.
Questions?
You know, Mr. Connolly, I did have questions. Mr. Connolly addressed them in his presentation.
I think this is a really interesting application. Like you said, there are 79 acres in all of this and only 37 lots. I mean, that is really a good give and take. There's a lot of good open space here. There's going to be the Stroh Ranch Regional Trail. You have a tree preservation plan in place, and there were no HOA complaints, which is really a high mark. So I appreciate what you brought to us.
Commissioner, I don't want to disabuse you of the notion that this is a good application. The 79 acres is in part because it encompasses the whole tract that goes all the way north. So that's why it appears to be a large number, although the impacted property is quite a bit smaller.
That little bitty tail that goes all the way up there.
Yeah.
If no other questions, I'll open it up for citizen comment. Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on this topic? Seeing no one in the room, Ms. Dunning, is there anyone online?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have Charlene Sloan on the line. Charlene, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Charlene, if you could give us your name, spell your last name and your address, please.
Will do. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Charlene Sloan, S-L-O-A-N. I reside at 8445 Whitez Court, Parker, which is in Colorado Golf Club. I am the president of the Riata South Metro District Board, and I thank you all for the opportunity to speak this afternoon. On behalf of the Riata Board, I would like to express our full support for the Riata South Preliminary Plan Filing 1. We support the subdivision application for several reasons. This proposed project is very compatible with our existing community, and it's well thought out expansion of the Colorado Golf Club. It provides a new product for a more diverse mix of housing in our community while maintaining the same high quality and design standards characteristic of the community. This particular clustered enclave of homes and streets maximizes the opportunity for the continued preservation of our open space and wildlife habitat. The layout of the project protects the character of the existing topographic conditions, and it's retaining as many trees, as Brian has mentioned, as possible to blend in with the character of the site. This proposed project will be subject to the very same design standards that have guided the development of all of the homes currently in the Colorado Golf Club. The building height limitations, design standards, and very careful placement of residential lots minimizes conflicts with the surrounding land uses and preserves our scenic views. This project will be served by the same high level of services and infrastructure as the rest of the community. The project's proposed density is compatible with our community as it will be clustered in a single area immediately adjacent to our clubhouse, so it won't really impact other residents in the remainder of the community. And probably not most importantly, but very importantly, this project will provide needed fiscal benefits for our community. It will bring revenue to our Metro District from the sale of the property, from additional quarterly operating fees for each additional unit, and from annual tax revenues from new homes. This will allow us to maintain our infrastructure and continue the district's high level of services to our community and to pay our bond debt obligations. As Brian has said, I just will add on to it, this developer has been very, very communicative with not only our community, but surrounding communities, both in group meetings and in individual meetings. And they have been extremely transparent in the entire lengthy process. We really have appreciated their willingness to go above and beyond throughout the process. It's been a real partnership, I think, with the community, with the district, with the HOA, and the developer. For all of these reasons, we, the Riata Board Metro District Board, ask you to approve the proposed subdivision application. And again, thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Sloan. Ms. Dunning, is there anyone else online?
I have no other hands raised.
Thank you. I will close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for discussion and/or a motion.
Madam Chair, if it pleases the board, I'll make a motion to approve Riata South Preliminary Plan Filing Number 1, 5th revision with 9 conditions as presented. Project file is SB 2020-043.
I will second that motion and just say that I believe this application meets the approval criteria.
We have a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that motion is approved. Thank you and congratulations. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Is that enough, Commissioner Layden?
I think so. Thank you.
We will be back at 5:05. Thank you.
Commissioners, this is Troy, your host. We are live and recording.
Thank you, Ms. Dunning, and the public hearing is back to order at 5:06 PM. We have got items C, D, and E. C and D are resolutions adopting amendments to the Douglas County zoning resolution, sections 15 and Article A, preliminary plan, Article 5, preliminary plan, Article 6, minor development, single-family residential, Article 6A, minor development, non-residential and multifamily, Article 7, replat, Article 7A. Okay, we know the rest. If there is a way for you to speed this up, I think that we don't want to miss anything, but if it's sped up, I think we'd all be fine too, so.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I am Lauren Pulver, representing Community and Resource Services. The requests before you today are zoning and subdivision resolution amendments to streamline the courtesy noticing process. The project number is DR 2020-003. The request is for approval of the Douglas County, of the Douglas County zoning and subdivision resolution sections and articles pertaining to courtesy notices. These are listed on the slide. Per zoning resolution section 109 and subdivision resolution article 111, the board shall evaluate the amendment proposal, referral agency comments, staff report, the planning commission recommendation, and public testimony, and shall approve with modifications, table for further study, remand to the planning commission, or deny the amendment proposal. The proposed amendments were processed with the timeline on the slide. The Planning Commission hearing for this item was held on March 8th, 2021. No public comments were received. A commissioner asked a question regarding how staff may be able to address a schedule of fees related to a Burning Tree Ranch HOA referral comment. The proposal consists of language changes in order to streamline the courtesy noticing process and allow for staff to prepare courtesy notices. With the proposed changes, staff will prepare courtesy notices and the applicant will be billed for materials and postage, reducing potential delays in processing time. Courtesy notices will be sent to abutting landowners and owners of land separated by 300 feet or less from the property by a platted tract, and the entity or entities responsible for ownership and maintenance of a shared private access in non-urban areas of the county. Each courtesy notice section also includes language to establish that courtesy notice errors will not constitute errors in compliance with public noticing. There are additional technical changes in Article 7A to formalize the pre-submittal and submittal review processes that planning services staff currently perform. The proposal was sent on referral from March 12th to December 4th, 2020, and 30 responses were submitted. Most of these responses were no comment, with one suggestion from Burning Tree Ranch HOA that a schedule of fees for reimbursement be available online. In a post-Planning Commission board work session, staff provided the board with proposed language changes to better define other affected landowners that may benefit from receipt of courtesy notices beyond abutting. These are the amendments presented to the board today. In conclusion, the proposed regulation amendments to the courtesy noticing process would provide greater efficiency for planning services staff and applicants while reducing application delays. After evaluating the proposed revisions, referral comments, and staff report, the board may approve with modifications, remand to the Planning Commission, or deny. This concludes staff's presentation. I am available for any questions the board may have.
Questions for staff?
Sorry about that, Madam Chair. I have no additional questions. I know we've been briefed on this in work sessions and have reviewed the packet. I'm comfortable with the application.
Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, feel a little bit of ownership of this one. Since how rude, I muted myself. No, this is great. I feel a little bit of ownership on this one, seeing as how this came before the the board just after I came on board. Thank you guys for working with my ideas. I know I kind of threw a monkey wrench in there a little bit, but I'm very happy with the result.
Thank you for the information, and I hope that the people that need to hear about what are going on still find out the information. There was that one question from Burning Tree that they wanted information posted on the website about what things would cost. Is that something that needs to be resolved, or how will that be resolved?
Staff, sorry, this is Lauren Pulver with Community Resource Services. Staff will work with applicants as they have projects. Given the fluctuation of postage changes and material cost changes, the schedule of fees does have to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners. So staff felt that was the most efficient way.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm going to open this up to citizen comment. Are there any citizens in the room who would like to address the board? Seeing no one coming to us, Ms. Dunning, is there anyone online?
I have no hands raised.
I will close citizen comment, and I will accept motions starting with C.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution adopting amendments to Douglas County Zoning Resolution Section 15, Plan Development District, Section 21, Use by Special Review, Section 22B, Entertainment Events, Section 25, Rezoning, Section 27, Site Improvement Plan, Section 32, Location and Extent, Project File DR 2020-003.
I will second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries.
Madam Chair, I too have a motion to approve a resolution adopting amendments to Douglas County Subdivision Resolution, Article 4, Preliminary Plan, Article 5, Final Plat, Article 6, Minor Development, Single Family Residential, Article 6A, Minor Development, Non-Residential and Multifamily, Article 7, Replat, Article 7A, Replat, Administrative Process, Article 7B, Road Vacation, Article 7C, Subdivision Plat Vacation, all in project file DR 2020-003.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that motion also carries. Thank you. Do we have Kim Hirsch online? I don't see any staff in the room.
I do not have Kim Hirsch online.
Madam Chair, if you'd like, I can run down to the finance office and see if they're still here. It's also in the board's prerogative. If you want to continue this item to the next public hearing, you may do so, but we do have public notice we need to preserve.
Now, let me see if we can, is Doug still around, do you know?
He should be at his desk, and he is still online.
Doug, do you know who's going to be doing this presentation on the supplemental?
Yeah, just a moment, please.
Thank you.
I mean, why not? It's almost like a land use class at this stage of the game, so why not? Yeah, let's do the next one too. No sweat. You know, that's how we should have done the first meeting back in January, guys, and given me a real workout, a real proper breaking in. Instead, we hung out until now, you know, it's no big deal.
I'm sure
Slow
there'll be interesting
crescendo.
ones coming forward. There is always something in the wings.
That is A-okay by me. I like interesting.
Okay, they are on their way. Madam Chair, I think those last,
She's running.
I'm sorry, last time I looked, you were on C, and then I ran all the way from my office for a minute. I apologize.
We asked staff to put in on the turbo burner, and so they got through it very quickly.
I apologize.
You're fine.
Are you guys ready?
Take a breath.
I apologize, I'm going to run down there and I won't be able to breathe. Well, it is my pleasure to formally present the first supplemental for fiscal year 2021. The total amount for the of the request for your consideration today is $6,870,375. This first supplemental will be reappropriating funding for purchase orders encumbered in 2020, but were not fulfilled. In other words, the board will be approving to reappropriate money budgeted for purchases in the preceding year that were not actually purchased in time. Each year, budget works very closely with each of the departments prior to the year's end to close POs that are no longer needed to prevent unnecessary reappropriation into the subsequent year. We watch very closely how long the POs have been opened and highly encourage departments to close POs that are older than 1 year. However, for some projects, purchase orders are open for longer periods of time, thus you will occasionally see a few covering 2 to 3 fiscal years. In the event that a PO in the general fund is reappropriated into the subsequent year and then closed, we require those funds to be moved into contingency so that departments do not inappropriately increase their spending authority. We do not necessarily use the same approach in the other funds, since their funding sources are dedicated to the fund's specific purpose. Again, the total request as presented today is $6,870,375, which represents a total increase of 1.5% in the 2021 adopted budget. With today's supplemental approval, the new amended budget for Douglas County will be $459,159,185. This supplemental request is governed by Statute 29-1-109 that will allow for the Board of County Commissioners to make revised appropriation resolutions that will reflect the increase in the expenditures. I have provided the details of the open purchase orders in the board's packet, along with the departmental explanations for those POs that have been carried forward for more than 1 fiscal year. In addition, detailed fund summaries for each fund that has been impacted has also been included in the agenda item for your review. With that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at this time.
Questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was a great presentation. Kim, thank you for being here. I see Martha Marshall in the gallery as well, and I have no additional questions.
Questions?
No questions.
I don't have any questions. I'm just going to make a statement that last year, Kim, did we end our budget at $582 million?
That sounds almost correct. It was over $500 million by the time we were done.
So I'm just saying, so we are at $460 million now, and last year we were at $580 million. So there's a lot of ground that can change between now and the end of the year.
Definitely. We have, or I have scheduled 4 opportunities to revise the budget via the supplementals this year. The next one will be the largest that I will be presenting at this time. It's the unencumbered roll from the prior fiscal year. And if the board does remember, I hope we would not reach that amount this year, as last year we had a lot of COVID dollars that were coming in. But with the pandemic still going on, I do anticipate that we'll increase it by a substantial amount this year.
Thank you. You always do such a great job watching all those zeros and decimal points, so thank you. I'll open this up for public comment. Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on this topic? Seeing no one in the room, Ms. Dunning, is there anyone online?
I have no hands raised.
Thank you. I will close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution supplementing the 2021 adopted budget for the County of Douglas, Colorado to appropriate committed fund balances in the amount of $6,870,375 for the reappropriation of prior year purchase orders.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
And that concludes today's public hearing and land use. The next land use and public hearing will be held on Tuesday, April 27th at 2:30 in the afternoon, and this ends today's session. Thank you.